But the point is the case for a simple speeding ticket, the person got mad, I got a speeding ticket. You know what, I'm going to sue. In a normal case, qualified immunity would have been put in place, and that case would have, pretty much died the first day in court. The second time, that case could keep going. Now, I gave it something very simple as a speeding ticket, but this was, how was it referred to as the new slip and fall? The attorneys probably already have the commercials out there ready for TV the day after this passes. What this looks like to me is this just opens the doors. And yeah, maybe the officer doesn't pay, the taxpayer pays. For all these frivolous lawsuits, the taxpayer has to pay in each community. What did somebody quote? Somebody quoted saying that if one of these cases actually went forward, in order for a case to get a jury, that could cost over $50,000. And then if it does get to a jury, the lawyer just has to somehow prove that this was malicious, wanton, or willful act. And I've seen things get turned around pretty good in court. And, all of a sudden the officer on the other end of this thing could see that he did nothing wrong, yet the jury believes that he did. And now this officer has to pay the community back the money, and then whatever the judgment is. So yes, he could lose his house off something that appears to be minor, but because it went through the whole system and it was judged by and presented in such a way that this could happen. This all comes about because of something that did happen in another state. I heard you say that. But we are literally, we worked together last year on a police accountability bill. And when we worked together, we made sure that we didn't have all these hiccups. We made sure that the police would understand this. And I read through this, and police don't understand this. Police are reading through this, and they're reading this kind of the same way I am on a lot of this stuff. And basically, nobody wants the bad policemen left in the police departments. Nobody does. But when it comes down to it, we have these laws being put in place that pretty much are going to punish all officers, all good officers. This is across the board. This is going to stop officers from getting involved in stuff. I told you before that I'm going to rethink what happens in my community. Am I going to work with other communities out of the fear that I'm going to be that my community is going to have to pay these fines for these frivolous lawsuits coming up? Am I going to get into? Am I going to do DWI checkpoints, where you stopped me for 20 seconds and you know what, I wasn't drunk, I know you smelled alcohol, but I told you it wasn't there, I'm suing you. Well, that's not going to last very long, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to say we're not doing DWI checkpoints. When they figure out what the first and secondary is on the tickets, if seatbelts are on the secondary, well, guess what, click it or ticket's gone. Our regional SWAT team, we're questioning that right now, because if qualified immunity wasn't in place and an incident happens in another town, well, now the Vernon taxpayers would be faced with a fine. And it doesn't have to be Vernon, it could be anybody. So yeah, we're questioning all these regional organizations we're part of. And we have to relook at everything. And we're looking at it because of the frivolous lawsuits that this is going to create. And we may say there's not, but you know what, there is. And anything can happen when you take something to court. The cost of these is going to be so expensive that, again, this falls down to, this should be called defund the police. Just like the people out there wrote, just like the people want, defunding the police. Well, that's not going to work very well. And then we got another section in here that talks about bringing social workers in. How are we going to pay for that? Are we going to, one social worker for one officer? And what rules are they going to fall under? Are they going to have police powers? Are they going to have arrest powers? How is that going to work? And I know there's social workers that come out and say they don't want that to happen. Violent crime is spreading in our state, and we as politicians should be supporting the police. We shouldn't be going after them every chance, or I'm not saying every chance we get, but this bill is bad for police, and it's bad for corrections officers. I'm all for accountability. I'm all for holding police accountable for what they do, and I think we passed a good bill last year, and this basically comes about. We're rushing this through. There truly wasn't that wasn't a public hearing. That was more of a listening session. And why didn't this go through public safety? I think this should have gone through public safety because I think this affects public safety. And instead, we have our listening thing on the internet for 12 hours, and there's a lot of people, I think, that would have liked to have showed up to give their opinions on this. And you know what? As a retired police officer, yeah, I've been awake on this. This has been bothering me ever since I heard about this and I read through it. And you know what? There's police officers all over the state of Connecticut that are bothered by this. And they think that this is politicians not backing them up, and I agree with them.